Hi there, my name's Lynn Mullis. I'm a solution consultant for Hewlett-Packard Software Division. I've worked for HP Software for 4 years, and prior to that I had a variety of jobs in network operations, doing things from network support engineer to being a technical architect for a network operations centre. So I haven't always been in pre-sales. I have actually been out there in the field. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is the HP Software's automated network lifecycle management, which is a bit of a mouthful, so I might not keep mentioning that as a full sentence. So the challenges that IT operations people have today is that whilst money is being spent on the ever-expanding network by buying network devices and putting them on the network, that's where all the money is going. But actually the operations people are struggling and being told they've got to cut costs and be more efficient. So this is causing a bit of a problem, and I'd like to talk today about how HP Software can actually help out and meet these challenges. First, I want to talk about the HP Software network management strategy. It's based on a business service management solution. So it's based on consolidated operations, configuration management database, and a whole suite of network management products. So the simple strategy is build and buy a set of best-of-breed products. So the core of network management products is Network Node Manager. It's been around 15 years. It's an industry standard. Everyone knows about it. And it does what it says. It's recently been rewritten based on standards and based on latest technologies. HP recently acquired Opsware, and that brought change configuration and compliance into the solution. And we've also got partnerships with and integrations with people like AlarmPoint and NetScout. So the solution becomes more holistic and covers the whole network lifecycle. And it's integrated not only up the BSM stack, but also within the products themselves. Okay, there are supposed to be some bullets there, but they appear in the conversion to have been deleted. So if we return to the challenge, we're talking about cutting costs and being more efficient. The business demands that the network's available 100% of the time and that it's performing well. Well, availability and fault are a standard network monitoring, standard for network monitoring applications. So what Network Node Manager brings into it is, and the new one specifically, is Layer 2 and Layer 3 discovery, continuous and automated. And coupled with effective root cause analysis, we can get to pinpoint problems faster, so we're being more efficient. But as the network becomes more resilient, these type of hard faults aren't really prevalent, they're less common. It's more to do with performance. Users phone up about performance. I mean, everyone knows if you can't access the network, if you can't access the application, you get your email, get on the internet, it's the network's fault. Everyone blames the network. But it's not, or it's very rarely the network's fault. So IT operations are being inundated with all these problems, and they really need to try and prove that it's not the network's fault. So by bringing performance into the equation, along with fault and availability, and being able to see the status as well as not only the availability, but also the performance, being able to see that on a map is going to make operations people be more aware and be more efficient, being able to get to the problem quicker. So there are two areas we can look at for changing configuration. That's automating change and looking at compliance. So the analysts say that 80% or up to 80% of downtime is caused by manual changes. So we used to refer to this as typos or fat fingers. Well, looking around today, I haven't seen many of you with fat fingers, so I'm guessing that you don't do many typos. But when I was working in a network operations centre, I actually saw the effect of what a fat finger caused to a customer. a guy, an engineer, was doing an authorised change. He was changing a lot of devices. He was doing it all manually. And so what he was, whilst he'd done all the changes on the network, he, excuse me.
Sorry, the PDF has got the text okay for us.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that. It's on the website.
Okay. Should be there.
There you go. That should be fine.
Cheers, thank you.
What were you saying about fat fingers? Yeah. No, that's been deleted. To make things easy.
Sorry, trying to help.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
God,
Why won't it open the
brains.
PDF?
No, don't worry. That's
That should be fine.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Is that better?
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, so the engineer has made the change. And he's made it effectively, he's done his tests, and it all looks okay. It was done in a maintenance window. So the next day when the customer came in, unfortunately, the problem was found out. They took the network down, and there was a huge outage, which took a lot of engineers and operators many hours to fix, because the guy who even did the typo couldn't find it. So to me, that's one of the real areas where network automation brings it home. And there are a lot of problems like this within the Network Operations Centre, whether it was all down to fat fingers or just not putting changes in correctly. So when I was a network operator, a technical architect, if this tool had been around, I would have had no problem raising a business case and getting the money for it, because I had all the evidence behind me. So secondly, if we talk about compliance, a lot of customers today, a lot of companies are having to report on compliance. So PCI, Sarbanes-Oxley. And what those based on policies, the compliance is based on policy. You set up a standard configuration. And that's what they do. They set up a standard configuration and put it out and then compare it against a policy to report on the compliance. So it doesn't have to be that you're reporting on compliance or you need to be regulated. It's all down to putting best practices on the network to ensure that you've got a well-maintained network. We'll talk about process automation or runbook automation. This is automating common data collection tasks. And what that means for networks, well, what do network engineers do when there's a fault on the network? First thing they do, log onto the devices involved and do some diagnostics. Wouldn't it be great if these diagnostics could actually be run as soon as the event comes in and be embedded into the fault and into the node details within the monitoring tool, so that the engineer is saving time by actually not having to do that diagnostics because it's already there and going straight in and analysing the information. Not only that, you can also manually force these diagnostics to run from within the tool, so using just one console. And therefore you build up a baseline of information and you can analyse to see where the anomalies are. I'm going to look at a unique approach to network management now. A lot of routing faults on the network, or logical faults, are things like BGP and OSPF, things that can't be picked up by SNMP normally. So what we want to bring RAMS into it. So RAMS is Route Analytic Management System. It's an appliance that sits on the network and listens to routing events. Routers, as you know, talk a lot. They're like old women, or as I've worked with a lot of engineers, like a lot of engineers actually, a lot of gossiping going on. So as the events are being picked up by the RAMS box, they're being recorded. So with those recorded events, you can pick up changes in real time, a lot faster than SNMP. And then they can be highlighted. There's a whole lot more to all these products that I've mentioned. I've only picked out a few points. And one of the things with this tool is that you can actually simulate taking networks down, taking a router down. What happens to my routing events? What happens to my routing across the whole network if I take one router down? Being able to simulate this because you've got that topology map is really quite key for some large, complex BGP, OSPF type implementations. So now I just wanted to briefly go through a few of the types of common problems that we come across and how we can be more efficient by monitoring them effectively. So HSRP or VRRP or XRRP can be monitored by a network node manager. What happens if you don't monitor it? Well, do you know that perhaps the standby router's gone down? If you don't, if you're not monitoring it, then when the primary one goes down, you've got an outage. Big problem. It's the same for having two active HSRP. You want to know any changes to those groups. So we've got a view here that tells us all the components within the HSRP group and the status of them, so the status of the group as a whole and individual components. If we take any changes on the network, so if you've got a standard ACL list that has to go out, if you haven't got a tool that's automating it, then you may just have a piece of paper. Fat fingers again, maybe, or even just missing something out. It could cause a huge security risk on the network. So by automating it and by bringing in a policy so that it can be matched, as soon as any change is done, can be matched against policy. If they don't comply, then you highlight it. Send an event to a network node manager, send an event to a monitoring tool, or remediate it automatically. Depends obviously how key it is and how high priority it is on the network. Routes flapping is another area that causes a lot of problems to do with performance mainly. And how do we pick this up? Well, we bring in the RAMS unit, the route analytics, where it's discovered and it's monitoring in real time. It sends an event to network node manager, the operators can see it and do something about it straight away. All about making operations people more efficient by having the right information at the right time. We look at performance now. We've got a lot of utilisation on the network, high utilisation, a lot of thresholds are being breached. Those can be, if you're not monitoring it, you don't know about it apart from users phoning up saying I've got a problem. And what do? Just look at performance stats by logging on, or perhaps you have another tool somewhere. So swivel chair management comes into mind, where you're actually looking from one tool to the other and trying to work out where the problem is. But if you could actually see, if it was a site that is having a problem, a whole site, you could actually draw the map between one site and another, and then look at the performance at each point along that route. You have a very good idea of how the network's performing and if you've got any problems on it. This is quite interesting when you come into to try and stopping all the problems actually getting to network ops that aren't to do with networks. This was actually an animated slide, so excuse me because we can't actually see all the changes. But what we've got at the back is a tool that's a dashboard. that's monitoring the real user, so a real user transaction, a real user PC, a real user application. And as that real user has problems, the dashboard highlights it. So by having that dashboard in a help desk, the operator can then say, okay, yes, this user's got a problem. Let me take their PC IP address, let me take the IP address of the server that the application's running on, draw the map on the network, draw the path on the network that between those 2 points, taking into consideration things like spanning tree, and then looking at that path and seeing if there are any problems on it. If there are, okay, let's bring up a performance report and see where the problems are and be more specific. The operator can then package that all in to an incident and assign it to the right group. Because if it's not the network, then it doesn't need to go to the network. So network operations are having less to worry about. Okay, so I've been very quick because I wanted to make sure we finished on time. But what I'd like to say at the end is really, if you want an ideal network management solution, you'd look for something like HAL, the computer from 2001: A Space Odyssey, who's continually monitoring the network, continually monitoring everything really, and immediately fixes something when there's a problem. That would be ideal, wouldn't it? Well, we're not quite there yet. But hopefully I've given you an insight into what HP software can do to enable operations, cut costs, and be more efficient. Any questions?
Hi, Ben Ward here. You said something about configuration policy, comparing configuration with a policy version. How do you define rules for that? Because that's a very difficult area to define without regular expressions and madness.
It is, and you can have a set of out-of-the-box standards, but they don't actually match everybody's network. So organisations tend to build their own, whatever their best practice is. Standard things are like, well, let's not have public and private as SNMP community strings. So a policy would be, don't have those.
What I meant was, how do you define the rules to do the matching of the against the standards? Because you're not actually going to have the same values for each device. You can have fill in the gaps stuff, but how do you define those rules? I mean, is there a language that's been implemented?
The rules are, I think they're defined by Boolean expressions and things like that. They can be quite complex in the way they're built up. So you can say and this or that and put asterisks in and exclamation marks to signify what you're actually matching it against.
Okay.
So one of the things that I would have set on, as part of a network operations centre, I always wanted people to put IF alias and have the right string in IF alias. Well, I would have matched that and say, right, okay, match it against SNMP location, match it against node name, and do those sort of pattern type matching against what's important. Yeah? If you would like any more information, there are some brochures at the back. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Lynn.